All right, so CEO of Over Easy, a very interesting brand that actually caught my attention right from the start as just being different, has a great mission. We'll go into the mission a little bit later. But Leonardo, I guess that the first question I have is if you can take us all the way back to the start. How did an idea actually become reality with Over Easy, actually?
Sure. So we had the goal to make a fully functional egg powder for quite a while.
Hmm.
And it took us a couple years of testing different drying technologies to really be able to find something that was going to work. And part of it's the functionality, part of it's the cost, the ease of use, how practical it is. There's a lot of things out there that'll give you a good powder, but it's just astronomically expensive. And then we've just been basically fine tuning that technology for the past 20 years. So
Okay, so 20 years of fine tuning it. That's a long time to find the perfect product.
that's
Do you
true.
find now that you found the perfect product, or do you have the mindset of there's always room for improvement?
I think the product is pretty much where it needs to be. What
Okay.
we keep improving is the process itself, frankly, to make it easier to dry and bring the cost down, right? Be able to produce more per hour kind of thing.
Okay. I see that. That's a good focus to be on. So, having talked with enough founders and also CEOs, generally a difficult stage is always getting that product market fit at the start, getting those initial
Mhm.
sales, and actually getting the ball rolling. How did you guys actually go about that phase, and how did you get out of that phase?
Sure. So we were fortunate at the very beginning, we were part of a larger company.
Hmm.
So we had a little bit of runway, but our product originally was developed to do exports from Canada. So everything that's getting shipped that's frozen or liquid, replace that with our powder. Canada exports quite a bit of egg powder into Asia, and we just wanted something that's highly functional, right? But because our facility is actually was based at that time in Olympia, Washington, we were very close to some very large military bases for the
Oh,
U.S.
okay.
And so our very first customer actually was the U.S. Navy.
Wow.
They have a base up in Bremerton. This is before 9/11, right? So you could actually go to the base, like literally in a little van, and take the product to the ships, and everything was okay. So that's how we
Wow.
started.
That's super interesting. It's not the normal start, not everyone has the Navy as their first client, but
Yep.
okay. And then from there, it maybe what word of mouth started happening, and just more and more people started hearing about it.
Exactly. More and more people start hearing about it. We went from the Navy also into the Army, into what they have the group rations, right? So
Mhm.
quite a bit of our business, about half our business now is military, half is non-military, mostly people either in food storage, right, that have want to have 2 years worth of food in their house,
Okay.
or specialty baking type of thing. So
Okay. So that's pretty cool though, to have the Navy to also did you at that point already know that the product was working, or were you going through that product market fit and you had the Navy actually telling you guys this is a perfect product. It really helps us with everything we're doing.
so it's an interesting question, but we always had faith in the product, and
Nice.
we knew the product does what it needs to do, right? The difficulty was nobody is really used to thinking of a powdered food as good,
True.
right? And
Yeah.
so with and especially with the military, I mean, you get guys that were in Korea and these kind of things, and they all remember the egg coming out of a can, and it was just horrible. So it took quite a bit of work to change that perception, right? It really
Okay.
is just going up and showing it to them, right? Hey, this is not your grandfather's eggs, right?
Yeah.
Cook it, eat it.
I love that. Yeah, I love it. Especially that it's difficult to get people to like it at the start, but I love the mindset that you guys had that you just trusted it so much. It's just a matter of getting people to trust it as well. And then whenever they give you that trust, they just love the product. So what have you actually then noticed was one of the biggest levers that you could pull that help you grow your brand throughout the years, basically?
Yeah, so it's like everything, right? It starts slow, and then you slowly build that momentum. A lot of it now for us is people do a lot of online research, and we
Hmm.
have great reviews because it's our customers basically say, right, this is the best stuff out there. And so that's huge to already help people to kind of be prepared, right,
Yeah.
for having a good product. So a lot of it's just keep pushing, keep pushing.
I guess that's also a great sign that your product is so good that you got your clients or your customers doing the selling almost for you, that they're just leaving great reviews. They're probably talking about it with their friends, and that kind of sells itself. So that's really cool. Actually, you guys have that. So about your mission a little bit now.
Yeah.
You know, I saw a key part of your mission is to reduce food waste. I'm going to be
Right.
honest. On your website, you know, you talk about your mission and how you reduce food waste. There's even an article you linked about, you
Mhm.
know, going more in detail. When I saw that article at the beginning, I was just, I'm not going to read that. It's far too long. Um,
Yeah.
but actually, surprisingly, I started reading the first line, the second line, and I just read through the whole thing because it's incredibly interesting and also eye-opening. Because I'm maybe like a lot of people initially when I saw the food waste, I just thought, you know, the food that rots away in our cupboard or the food that we don't eat.
Yeah.
But then when you actually see that there's the entire supply chain from production, storage, packaging, transport, it's crazy actually the amount of food waste there is. So I guess you know that's a long way of asking the question of how is over easy actually having a positive impact here?
Right. Again, so it goes right back to the reason why we started this company, why we've tried to make this product at the very beginning, right? You're right. Most people don't know about how much food is wasted just in the taking it off the farm, going to the processors, in storage, all those kind of things. And especially with liquid eggs, very, very sensitive, right? If you've got the temperature wrong for a little bit in transport, you got to throw the whole thing away.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is get as close to the farm as possible. So we're like 2 steps removed from the farm, right? Our facility is in Iowa in the middle of the US. This is egg country. We get the liquid directly from the farms themselves. And then from there forward, we turn liquid, which is very, very easy to contaminate and has a short shelf life, into a stable product. We remove all the water. Now you have a powder that's 1/4 the volume, 1/4 the weight. It's robust and it lasts 3 to 7 years as opposed to 30 to 90 days, right? And
Wow.
from there forward, it works its way through the whole supply chain.
Yeah.
But it's much easier because now, if for some reason some of our product gets stuck in a warehouse
Yeah.
and they forget about it, they find it 2 months later, it's still fine, right? You just
Genius.
ship it on, right?
Yeah.
And like you say, and all the way to somebody's cupboard. Because if you have it at your house, I mean, everybody has that experience, right? You
Yeah.
clear out your fridge and you're throwing away tons of food you didn't know you had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when you find ours again, it's still good. So
That's genius. Yeah, because you're really taking away a lot of the problems throughout that entire supply chain of if you have the inevitable problems that you're gonna have, whether it's transport being late or you know it just there's delays, whatever, your product is actually immune to all of that. So how maybe you already answered a little bit before, but I'm just curious, out of all of the problems there are, you know, with different products, with different meals, everything, how did you decide to actually go in the egg space and create this exact product? I'm just curious.
sure. So that's serendipity, right?
Okay.
The company we were part of at that time, that was one of their big issues. Again,
Okay.
Canada exports a lot of their egg. They have a closed egg market. Every chicken has a license. But to keep the processors going, they're allowed to import as much as they want. But every single pound you import has to be exported back out. So that's why they have a huge focus on export. And we were in whey proteins and egg proteins were the ones that really needed the work. So it's not like we went, looked at the whole spectrum of things that need help and said, okay, we'll choose it. It's just we were already in the egg business, and so we just try to make the egg better.
Okay. Okay. You directly saw the problem, so you just thought we got to find a solution to this one. Okay.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I also saw that you've got a lot of experience when it comes to operations. You know, you're being a COO, a plant
Yeah.
manager, director of manufacturing. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about how you constantly innovate with your manufacturing? Because I guess that's probably a whole process in and of itself.
There's an old saying, right? The devil's in the details. And that's
Beautiful.
really what it gets down to, right?
Okay.
Our basic technology, heat applied to liquid egg to remove water, hasn't changed in 22 years. What's
Okay.
changed is exactly how we do it, how that heat gets applied, how you're doing the transfer, right? How you warm up the water, how you move the air, how you move the belt. I mean, just all these little details
Yeah.
that added up make a huge difference, right? So
Yeah.
for myself, I mean, I started with the R&D on the technology. So I'm fortunate that I know the technology inside and out. And it's part of, I mean, I like to tinker, right? I like to make things better.
Yeah.
And so you just keep tinkering and trying stuff out. And we have now our third generation machine. And I mean, just to When we started, it took 4 people 8 hours to dry 500 pounds of powder. Now we do it with one person in 1 hour, right?
Wow, that's crazy.
So it's just a change over time, right?
The efficiency is crazy. How you so much more efficient. And I really like what you said. With the details, because it's true. One small detail may seem like nothing, but then 10, 15, 20 small details amount to a very, very big difference. And focusing, clearly you're the proof here that focusing on the little details make the big difference at the end. So that's super interesting.
Yeah.
So having been in business now for a number of years, what would you say, just generally, are some of the biggest lessons that you have personally learned?
It's really good. So first one is know yourself, right?
Okay,
I'm a natural optimist.
nice.
And so I can tend to overestimate how quickly things are going to happen, right? That happens to
Okay,
a lot of people. But, oh, it's only going to take me a year to build this thing.
yeah,
Well, no, it ends up being 3 years,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Things like that. So that's a huge one, right? Kind of always recalibrate.
Hmm.
And then, I mean, people say this all the time, but it's true, is be ready to pivot,
Okay.
right? Because some of our best businesses have happened by pure chance, right? You're at a show, you talk to a random person, you go, oh, wait, oh, you guys do that? Well, we have something that would work fantastic for it. And it happens, right?
Yeah,
And there's other things that you think, oh, no, this is absolutely going to work. It makes total sense. It has to happen. And you push and you push and you push, and it never works, right? And you just
yeah,
got to say at some point, okay, I guess that's enough of that.
yeah, yeah.
So being flexible is a big part of it.
Those are two very, very good ones. You already proved that, at the start, you said you were very optimistic. You already knew the product was going to work. So I guess that's a little sign as well of optimism there.
Yeah.
And I really like the second one. And yeah, you do hear that quite often, to not be maybe emotionally attached to the project you're working on. Because maybe it's your baby, it's what you're working on. So you kind of think it has to work. But I like the idea of being open-minded enough to see potential opportunities elsewhere and to actually pivot. So those are really, really good, two good tips there. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Again, with business, there are some very, very good days, but inevitably you've also got some rainy days, as I'm sure you've probably had quite a few.
Oh,
Would you
yeah.
mind sharing, if that is not too personal, one of the biggest challenges you've had to face with, the brand, or maybe even personally in terms of maybe mindset, and how you
Mhm.
actually managed to overcome it?
Yeah. So some of our biggest challenges have been that it took a lot longer to do some things than it should have, right? Or that we thought it
Okay.
would. And so you get to a point where you basically almost run out of money, right?
Yeah.
And I've had to at some point, I mean, I think twice now, when markets start shifting too much, do the hard thing of having to shrink the company for a little bit to survive long enough to be able to continue forward, right? And that's, to me, that's been some of the hardest stuff, because you can spend, I mean, at one point you spend like 2 years building a team,
Hmm.
right? Getting everything ready and things are going great and all that, but then something comes a little sideways, and that market that you thought was going to be whatever, X pounds is actually half of that.
Hmm.
And well, that's you got to go back and go, well, we only need this. I
Yeah.
don't need this much more. If we continue at this size of company, we're not going to make it. So we got to shrink to be able to continue.
Okay.
And we've had to do that a couple of times, and it's rough. But yeah,
Yeah. Is it rough, you think, mostly just mentally, to think we've done all this, we have to take a couple steps back now and lay some good foundations to go forward again?
it's yes, mentally, emotionally, right? Because normally you have to, like, again, small company, right? We got 30 some people, so everybody. It's not like I get to send a little thing to HR that says
Okay.
get rid of 10%, and I don't worry about who is it.
Yeah.
I don't even see them, right? No, I know exactly who it is, and I do the
Okay.
conversation, right?
Yeah.
So that part of it. The other one a little bit is you start doubting yourself,
Okay.
right? Well, if we got that one wrong, what else have we gotten wrong?
Yeah.
Is this really worth continuing or not? Right. And that's frankly where the things like the mission statement and that come back in. Okay,
Hmm.
have the fundamentals changed? No. Is the
Hmm.
product still good? Yes. Is the demand still out there? Yes. Okay, then it's just it's time and economics, right?
Yeah.
We just got to survive long enough to where the world comes around to our side. So.
Right. I can imagine some of these conversations you must have had where you had to fire some people that you personally know. I don't think those were some of the better days. So let's pivot.
Oh,
Let's pivot
sure.
to something more positive now. if you, when I ask this question, what is the first thought that comes to mind of one of the best days you've had in the company, or one of the biggest accomplishments? What comes to mind? You think that was really, really a good moment, I was proud of?
So for me, again, we want our product to be kind of a mass product,
Hmm.
right? We've proven for 18 years that we're really good as a niche product, specialty stuff like the military and all that. But 2 years ago, we started going into Puerto Rico.
Okay.
It's a territory, right, of the US, but it's an island. They have a lot of issues with logistics, a lot of issues with electricity, right? They have a storm, it seems like once a year, that knocks everything out. And so we always thought a market like Puerto Rico market
Hmm.
is a fantastic place for our product if we could find a way to get in. And we started having, 2 years ago, we went in, started having some really good results. Then the avian influenza hit, it kind of threw things sideways. But just before that happened, we pretty much proven that our product works for food service, for
Okay.
restaurants and hotels and so on, right? That even though it's a powder and it means you have to change a little bit how you handle it and how you cook and those kind of things, that it's still functioning. And so that was really good because it's again, our basic concept works. Now we just have to execute properly. So
Why Puerto Rico though? Why did you guys decide there?
because we tried going into Europe,
Yeah.
tried going into Asia, all these, but every time there's a border in between, it's
Okay.
difficult enough to have customers accept that an egg powder is as good as liquid egg. But then you add all the things that you have, the sanitation laws
Yeah.
and the tax and all that, and it really and quite often, it's super long, super far away. So time zone differences, language differences, all that, very complicated. But Puerto Rico is the US.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go through any special tariffs or anything to get there. It's fairly easy. My father's actually there now, right? I mean,
Okay.
it takes about 8 hours to fly over there, but it's not that hard to get to. It's a culture that we're used to. We're Latin, right, from Spain and that, so we speak Spanish and so on. So
Nice.
no issue speaking with the locals there.
Yeah.
And but it's a big enough. It's 3.5 million people, so they have all the needs of, well, a good sized country basically,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
proving that it works in Puerto Rico pretty much tells us that yes, once as we can scale this thing up, it's going to work everywhere else.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I've also heard countless times with Europe, especially. Me, I'm in France right now, so it's really difficult to get some products in with the borders. It stays stuck. So good thing with your product, it can stay stuck for a long time, and it's not gonna
Yeah.
melt away. But yeah, that's not really the goal there. So, we talked about some ups and downs in business. I'm curious now, what actually drives Leonardo up every day, and what makes you want to give your best every single day, even when you do have some challenges?
Good question, right? So, like everybody, you want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there's another saying, right? Think global, but act local. And
Cool.
so, one of the things that I try to do is at our company, live our values, right?
Hmm.
I'm a Boy Scout, right? That's
Okay.
literally, I was an Eagle Scout when I was young. And so I'm a nice guy. And I try and make sure that we run our business, right, in a very positive manner
Hmm.
with full input. I mean, I tell the guys all the time, right? We're paying for your brain power, not just your hands, right? So I want people to think. But for
Nice.
that, you have to give them the chance to make decisions.
Yes.
So we have this fantastic product, but we're also trying to have it inside of a company that gets incredible things done
Hmm.
with limited resources and by treating people really well, right?
Yeah.
So that it's sustainable for the future, right? Because if your whole business is built on exploiting something, right, not paying somebody enough
Yeah.
or treating them
Yeah.
badly, sooner or later it's not going to work, right?
Yeah. I love that. And again, it goes to the details, of maybe one person that's not being treated well can have a huge ripple effect later down the line. But I really like that um, company culture actually you're trying to have to give people an opportunity also to come up with new ideas, make the company even better. Now, you already touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious, what are your plans then for 2023? We're well in it already now, but what are the plans for this year?
So first thing we've got to do is survive the avian flu, right?
Okay.
Which has
Yeah.
made prices super crazy, but
Hmm.
that seems to be about to be done.
Okay.
But what we are this year, we have a warehouse in Puerto Rico. We're expanding that. It's basically expand our presence in Puerto Rico
Hmm.
we're in a lot of the industrial cafeterias right now. getting
Okay.
more into the hotel side in just getting that line to go more through the country. That's our big goal for this year.
Okay.
Penetrate Puerto Rico more deeply.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's for this year. And what's your long-term vision then for the brand within, say, 10, 15 years, the ultimate goal for Over Easy? What is it?
Yeah. That's where things get a little tricky, right?
Okay.
Because what's good for me personally is not necessarily the best for the business. I don't really want to grow this business much past 50 employees.
Okay.
Um, whatever, be a mid-sized business, right?
Hmm.
50 million to 100 million in sales
Hmm.
for my own personal lifestyle, right? Because more than that gets difficult to handle. Frankly, you probably have to sell. But
Okay.
the ultimate goal is that we're replacing liquid and frozen,
Okay.
right? And so it's quite possible 10 years from now, we may have to sell the company to somebody that has to scale to make that happen, right?
Okay.
The way it needs to be, because egg is huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
millions and millions and millions of pounds, and we're dealing with just a really small part of it right now.
Mm.
So if we can really prove that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, most likely 10 to 15 years we've had to sell, which I
Okay.
don't really want to do, but that
Yeah.
might just be what needs to happen. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So scaling it to a certain point and then handing it over to someone who can scale it maybe even further.
Scale it even further and make it the base technology, right? So then almost all the egg that starts coming out of the US is our product, as opposed to frozen and liquid and shells, all these things that are being shipped now
Yeah.
because people don't know they have the option, right?
Okay. So you want everyone whenever they think of eggs, basically you want them to think of Over Easy. That's the goal.
If you're not on a farm in Iowa, then eggs should be over easy for you. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. Now, imagine now you've got your younger self in front of you, and he's about to embark on this journey that you're on,
Yeah.
and he's not too sure what to do. In as little words as possible, what advice would you give him, knowing what you know now?
Number one, don't take out so many loans. Go
Okay.
slower, right?
Okay. Okay. That's
So
interesting.
yeah, well, because we took out, again, manufacturing is difficult because you need a lot of money and equipment,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of it ends up happening way before you can sell because you have to build it, install it. So it can be a year, 2 years between you getting the money, spending it, and then actually being able to sell, right?
Yeah.
And again, thinking of that, we were going to have more sales than we actually did. Basically, borrowed way too much about 10, 12 years ago. Should have gone slower. It,
Okay.
it's okay, we make it, right?
Yeah.
But when you have the more debt you have, right, the less margin of error you have down the line because
True.
now, things start going a little bit bad. I mean, I look at that all the time. Our EBITDA is great,
Yeah.
but then you get to the part with interest and tax, and it's like, where's all the money going,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
rid of that whole line, we'd have a fantastic business. So that would be my number one advice. Go a little bit slower, don't borrow so much.
That's super interesting. That's really, and again, I guess that's something you can only know once you've actually made, quote unquote, the mistake, because when you're just starting out, you're very
Yeah.
probably ambitious. You want to do everything quickly. Like you said, if you're very ambitious like yourself, you think it's going to scale very quickly. And then maybe a bit of reality, you can call it, sort of kicks in, and you're like, oh, actually, we should maybe not have gone that quick. So that's a
Yep.
really, really good piece of advice. And now, bonus question, if you were stuck on an island and you can only take one of your products with you to survive, which one would it be?
Just plain whole egg, straight
Plain
over
old.
easy. Yeah.
Okay. Simple, survive, and eat really well.
You do whatever you want, right? You fish
Yeah,
something, you throw it in there, you pull something off a palm tree, you throw it in there. So yeah, eggs go with everything, right?
that's beautiful. Love the answer. Love the answer. Well, Leonardo, thank you so much. This was really, really interesting. Really appreciate you coming on. And then for anyone who is interested in learning more about your mission or your business, or just want to get flavorful, fresh eggs with no filler, I'll put the
Mhm.
links in the description. So, guys, everyone be sure to check that out. Leonardo, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.